Notre Dame 9-1 playing undefeated Army 9-0 playing in Yankee Stadium. The line right now is -16 Notre Dame. It's come down a point from where it opened. 44.5 over under there. I know that you're already on record for saying that Army is going to go ahead and beat Notre Dame, but why don't you give us the keys to victory? And keep in mind, the last time Notre Dame played a service academy, Navy, who was unbeaten this year, that one was 51-14 off of 6 turnovers, I think it was.
Yeah, and Navy, and you got to give credit to Notre Dame. They played really disciplined. The Army and Navy teams, they were both undefeated, but they're not the same to me. Army is a very old team. Notre Dame is older as well. But I don't think Army is going to make the same mistakes from a turnover standpoint that Navy did to allow Notre Dame to build a lead that Navy could not surpass, that they had to get out of doing what they do and start trying to throw the ball and getting all creative and this, that, and the other. So I think Army is going to play clean enough to stay in this game. I know that spread is really high. And we've talked all year about how this Army team is kind of innovative in the way they run the triple option, right? You're seeing them, do more things out of the gun and throwing the ball and having that capability. But when you look at the numbers, guys, they're still running the ball 90% of the time. Like, you can't forget to dance with the one that brought you. So Army's going to try and establish a run. But I think there's a fine line, if you are calling the plays for Army, in trying to overdo it to outsmart Notre Dame and getting away from what you do best and doing it just enough. How many times are you going to throw on 1st and 10? How many times are you going to take a shot on 3rd and 1 knowing that 4th and 1's not going to be that easy against this Notre Dame defense that is very well coached up and showed you they know how to stop the triple option? But here's where I lean on Bryson Daly and his ability as a leader to be able to make plays, because they're not going to be scared of Notre Dame. Now, make no mistake, Notre Dame has better players than they do. And my biggest worry is not just Army's ability to be able to move the ball and maybe getting too cute on offense, which could lead to turnovers, could lead to 3rd and 8s, which they can't live in the style of offense they play. It's Army's defense. Because when you look at the numbers, Army's defense is really good, guys. Like, they're giving up like 11 points a game. They're really, really talented, and they tackle really well in space. But Notre Dame, even with the injuries they've had on the offensive line, is a lot more talented than Army is up front. So at the point of attack, can Army get away without having to throw every single person they have to stop the run, including Riley Leonard running the ball, which is his best thing to me still, even though his arm talent is pretty good. He hasn't shown a lot of consistency. Because if you do that, you're going to have to play man in the back end. And if Army has to play man in the back end, you are one bad step, you are one broken tackle away from that going 80 yards. And as good as Army's offense has been this year, and as better as I think they are than Navy is, they cannot get down to this Notre Dame team. So the start of this game is massive. Can you live in 3rd and 3s? Will you get too cute, or will you just be cute enough? I think this Army team is not going to turn the ball over. Don't let them get in the 4th quarter with a chance. Do not let these cats get in the 4th quarter with a chance, because they're going to beat you.
Blaine, Notre Dame beat Texas A&M on the road to open the year. They lost to a Northern Illinois team that is now, 6-4 in the MAC? And since then, I mean, they looked great, blowout wins, but we're talking 49-7 over Stanford, 31-13 over Georgia Tech, 51-14 over that Navy team we were talking about, 52-3 over Florida State, 35-14 over Virginia. But I'm wondering, and look, I love Jeff Monken, man. He did some great things in Statesboro when he was at Georgia Southern. Can this Army team really play with Notre Dame, or is this just sort of some fool's gold where Notre Dame moves forward?
I mean, this sucks to say, but I think Notre Dame's going to roll these guys.
What's rolling them?
Like, you're going to cover the spread. I think this will be a 20-plus point game. I just don't think Army has enough. I don't think the way Army's built, you can beat a team like this. I just don't. If you get behind early, which I think they will, it's going to throw you completely out of what you do from an offensive standpoint. Then you're going to be pressing, and you're going to do things you're not used to. And that's when you look up and you're down 27. I think this Notre Dame team is going to be too much. Riley Leonard, love it running back. They have a couple good pieces. Their offensive line banged up, but still good. This is the Notre Dame team we're going to see Saturday. And look, I love our service academies, all right? I love them so much. And trust me, I want Army to win this football game. But I look at them in no way. I don't think Army's going to push them around up front on the offensive line. I just don't think you're big enough. And I think Notre Dame has the size in the front 7 to stop you guys. And if you take Army's right hand away, they have nothing else. They have nothing else. And Notre Dame can dribble with both hands. With Riley Leonard running the ball, Riley Leonard throwing the ball, and Notre Dame's defense has looked good this year. So it sucks to say I don't want Notre Dame to win this game, but I do think they win this game, and I think they cover.
Well, Army has to be the counterpuncher in this game. They have to be the counterpuncher because I don't think they're going to be able to dictate and just attack and attack and attack. What do I mean by that? That means you're going to have to have a lot of counters built off of your tendencies and what you do best. And that's great, and that's what you want to do because the whole reason you run the triple option is to slow the defense down, give eye candy to the defense, but they're very well coached up. Marcus Freeman, we saw what they did against Navy. So where is the line if you're Army in counterpunching enough off what you do, but not getting away from what you do? And when do you do it? On that first drive, are you going to start running counters to what you have been doing out of the same look early and see if it works to maybe get you back into doing what you're able to do because they're worried about, oh no, he's going to reverse out. They're going to run the triple option the other way. Or they're going to run a reverse off this. Or it's going to be a reverse pass off this. Or they've been 85% when they're on the right hash and they're in this formation. They're going to run it into the boundary and all of a sudden they do opposite things like that. It's not just about trick plays. Or do you go about it the other way? And if you're Army, say, you know what? We're going to do what we did that got us here until they show us they can stop it, and then we're going to counter. To me, I think you counter first. That's what I think you do. I think you come out and you throw the first punch, right? You don't sit here and just play with them and play with them and play with them. I think you go out and you run a couple of those counter plays off of what you do best early, see if they hit. So at worst, if they don't, you can at least go back to what you do best and what you know. And if it does, now you're out early, which does two things. It doesn't get you behind where you're having to do things you don't normally do. And two, it lets Notre Dame know, guess what? We're here to play, and you don't have us pegged like you had Navy pegged. That's what I'm looking for. That's where Cody Worsham, the OC, is going to make his money. That's what I want to see.
So when you say you expect Army to counterpunch, you're not talking about they need to respond to Notre Dame in the game flow. You're talking about scheme?
Scheme.
Okay.
They need to go early. I think you go against what you've done a couple times.
Okay, interesting. See, I thought you were talking about they need to counterpunch, basically like, hey, Notre Dame's going to dictate the pace and the style of this game, and then you punch back based on what they do. Which is what I thought Arkansas might need to do last week against Texas. That was sort of a game plan, which, look, it could go that way. I think it needs to be more, if you were forming a template for this, it may need to be a little bit more of what Vanderbilt did against Alabama. That wasn't a counterpunch game from responding. Vanderbilt set the tone of the game, and Alabama sort of got caught off guard with an assumption, well, of course, we'll come back and win. It's just closer than we think. And Vanderbilt just never let up with a 41-minute time of possession, which this Army team can hold the ball like that. I just saw them hold it for 13 minutes in the fourth quarter.
But Vanderbilt could make those short throws consistently out of that diamond set. That's what worries. Not that Daly can't. But we know Pavia had the running ability, is a good runner, but he could also make those short throws in the window where, you know what, God forbid if we run it on first and second down and we're in 3rd and 6 or we're in 3rd and 7, you've got a lot better chance of being able to throw it and get to the stick. The amount of stick routes that Vanderbilt ran in that game was insane. I'm shocked Bama just didn't squat on it, even if they were in man coverage. I just don't know if Army has that escape hatch.
Look, you say what you want about Vanderbilt. Those are SEC football players. Okay, and we talked about this all the time with Service Academy.
Well, how big of a difference do you think
can they have big enough guys to push Notre Dame, who probably outweighs them all by 50-plus pounds?
Which isn't their fault. Sometimes it's dictated by the Service Academy.
For sure,
especially up front.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And that's what that's what they do.
And nobody goes to Army to play guard in the NFL.
No. And nobody's saying that. The only reason we're talking about it so much is because they're legitimately a really good football team with great football players and great coaches. Like Jeff Bunkin can coach. The thing, to answer your point, is if they can't throw it well enough in the intermediate game or in any part of the passing game to like stay alive in the way we're talking about against Notre Dame, then not only do you have no chance to win this game, but you have no business being in the college football playoff.
I agree with that. And we're going to, kind of like Indiana, we're going to find out this weekend against Ohio State. In a weird way, with Army, that's kind of the same situation that we're finding ourselves in. What is up, YouTube? You know the deal. Subscribe.